Hey guys, so this next video, or this current video actually, is chapters 7 through 10. So that has all to do with, running for office and being president and whatnot. So, we already, I've stated in the previous video what a bicameral legislature is, which is basically like House, Senate. It's split bicameral too. There's this thing called apportionment that people like to do in Congress, which is basically like, okay, well, not what people like to do in Congress. It's basically like, okay, so according to how many, this is how many representatives we have. That's because of how many populations. Yeah, that's what apportionment is. And you should know what a bill is. A bill is basically like the policies that people put together. They construct this whole thing, like the health, like the Affordable Care Act. That was a bill that they approved through Senate and then House, and then make it all the way up to the president. And he didn't veto it because he wants people to have affordable care, health care. So that's what a bill does. It's kind of like all these policies and whatnot put together. So in order to run for office, and rather the more better thing is staying in office. There are certain things, you do to stay in office once you've been elected. So, if you're an incumbent, which is the person who's already in office, you already have the advantage of staying in office because people know you. They're going to vote for you because you're a recognizable name. The other thing is redistricting, which is basically like, we're going to set up, all these districts on people who vote. That's what redistricting is. We're going to change, every time we're going to change where the district lines and stuff are. And there's a thing called gerrymandering, which is basically where you can set up the districts in such a way where it's like, you only win because there's such a small population of one party that the other party is like dominating in that district, like the most random thing, like. And it's called that way because a guy, Jerry, created it, and the first one was like this. It looked like a dragon. Like it looks like it's such a weird, like it's such a convoluted shape that it's gerrymandering because you're just like manipulating the shape of it. So the next thing is, that's how you stay in power. The next thing is, how is the Congress organized? So basically, Congress is organized like there's the majority party, minority party. And then there's like a party caucus or conference. So the caucus is basically like, we're gonna all sit here and talk about stuff. Woo, and the majority party should know it's a majority, and the minority party is a minority. And okay, so let's go to the House. So the House is basically made up of like their leaders are. There's the Speaker of the House, which is the most powerful person in there. Like you're in charge. You're doing stuff. Then there's the majority leader, and the minority leader, and the whips. And no, the whips do not have actual whips. But they do whip people back into, within their parties, like, you're gonna vote for this. Whip back into shape. And then, then there's the Senate, and the Senate's, run by the, President Pro Tem. And, the VP is also a part of the Senate, but they only really come in, they're only important for breaking ties. That's all they do. Then there's the majority leader and minority leader. And then this other really important thing that has to do with Congress, just they basically do all this paperwork and all this stuff and all these things, is the committees. So there's several different types of committees. The most important one are the ones that are always there is the standing committees. They're standing committees because they're always there. So standing committees, basically all the bills that are being proposed, they go to them and they do all paperwork and all the stuff and putting them together. So there's a type of standing committee called a conference committee. Nope, I lied. There's a special committee called the special type of standing committee is a joint committee, which is basically where it includes members from both Senate and House, and they come together because they're joint together to do stuff. And there's a specific type of joint committee called a conference committee, which is basically like, oh my gosh, there's this. We're trying to get the same bill approved, but they're not the same in the House and Senate. We have to put the differences in the bill, which then compromise. And then the specific type of conference committee is called a select or special committee, which only comes up for certain special things like 9/11. they had their special committee. And yeah. Then there, you should know the powers of Congress, which is the most important part of Congress, So they have the powers of lawmaking. They make bills and policies and they approve them and, that good stuff. So there's specific things that go with lawmaking, which is like, markups, holds, filibusters, holters. So filibusters and holds are only go to the Senate. Filibusters only go to the Senate, which is just like, everyone wants this bill. I call it filibuster. You can't do nothing about it. We can't move on. Whoops. And the only way to get rid of a filibuster culture, which is like after 60 votes. Vote 60, basically. Like 60 people in the Senate voting to end the filibuster. But that's essentially always happens. So. And, hold. They kind of just like pause it. Like, I don't understand this. No, we're not moving forward. Pause. And there's the whole lawmaking thing leads into vetoes, which is once the bill's approved, it's like, oh my God, we finally got Senate and House to be on the same page. Let's go to the president. So the president can veto, which is like, no, the bill is dead. I broke my wands. I'm not doing that again. And there's different types of vetoes. So there's a regular veto where they're like straight up, no, bill is dead. It goes back to Congress, which can lead to an override. But only 110 of those have actually happened, where they get majority Congress to vote on that, which is two-thirds Congress. Then there's a thing called a pocket veto, and there's two different types of pocket veto. So one of them is where the president's like, I'm not going to. Or three types actually. I'm not going to sign this bill. I'm going to wait 10 days. And if Congress is in session within those 10 days, that means it gets passed. Presidents do that because they don't want to be like, oh, I want this bill associated with me. I didn't sign it, but it's still back out. And then, but if the Congress is not in session at the end of that 10 days, then it's dead. And there's a line pocket veto where the president is like, I'm gonna sign this bill, but there's certain parts of the bill that I'm not gonna follow through with. Yeah, no. And that's also when the president literally says like they're supposed agreement, and they're like, yeah, I'm gonna sign it, and I'm not gonna enforce it. It's signed, but I'm not following through with it. And then, they also Congress has the power to budget. And the president can propose budgets. They do that with the Office of Management Budget. But they basically come up with the whole thing. They have to approve it. They have to go through that. They have to, come up with money, like how much we're going to spend on all these different parts of government. Oh. So there's a Congressional Budget Act of 1974, excuse me. And that's what all that stuff. And there's they can do like there's porks and earmarks, which are kind of like categorical block grants, but they're more specific. They can do oversight, which is every part of the government can do oversight, which is they overlook the president and the judicial branch, because they get to be like, hey, oh, you want to appoint this judge and these people to the cabinet, we must approve. You want to do this trade and this treaty, we must approve. There's the War Powers Act, most important freaking thing you have to know. The president, they have the power to declare war. The president does not. The president can send troops, but they have to, hey, heads up, Congress, I'm sending troops. And if Congress does not give them the approval, the okay, they have 60 days to pull them back. And, they have all the power. When it comes to war, the president might be commander-in-chief. Congress is in charge. They also have the power to impeach. Well, House has the power to impeach. Senate puts them on trial. Remember that. So